Trigonometric ratios. After watching this video, I will be able to find trigonometric ratios using right triangles. So first we want to kind of figure out what trigonometry comes from, and it's basically coming from two Greek words, one of the words meaning triangle and the other word meaning measure. So trigonometry is just studying triangle measurements. And when we talk about measurements, we're talking about the actual angle measurements as well as the side measurements. And a trigonometric ratio is basically taking two sides, and a ratio is basically division or a fraction. And we're taking the two sides, and it gives us special information or important information when we're dealing with right triangles. So trigonometry is actually very fundamental in a lot of things that we don't even notice, but we use daily, like GPS, sound waves, music waves that when we're listening to music. And they actually have special functions. And if you look at a scientific calculator, you may have seen buttons that represent scientific trigonometric functions. So we have sine, cosine, and tangent. And in the calculator, you will see SIN. That stands for sine. COS stands for cosine. And TAN stands for tangent. And when we're talking about those specific functions, we need an angle measurement to go along with it. And right triangles is actually also used in combination with a circle to kind of come up with sound with sine and cosine. So if you're really interested in this unit, you might want to consider pre-calculus as a next math step that you would need to take. And if you're interested in why they came up with the name sine, cosine, and tangent, you can go to the notes section and click on origin of trig names. They basically make sense, but it was written in a different language, so that's why they're so weird to us. But they're basically just like trigonometry, meaning triangles and measures. Sine, cosine, and tangent deal with the same thing. So you really don't need to know that. This is just a fun fact if you're interested. Now, what we do need to know for trigonometric ratios is the different sides of a triangle. So when we were talking about the Pythagorean theorem, we said that we have the hypotenuse, and it's always the longer side or the side that's opposite of the right angle. Your legs are the actual sides of the triangle that create the right angle. Now, the sides have special names depending on the angle we are talking about. So for example, here we're talking about this angle, and this little symbol is called theta. This is just a Greek letter that's often used for right triangle angle measurements. It could be any letter. It could be just the letter X if this symbol confuses you or makes you feel uncertain or makes you confused. So because we're talking about this specific angle, well, the side opposite of that angle is called the opposite side. And then the last side is called the adjacent. Now, depending on the angle you are talking about, the adjacent and opposite side could switch around. So let's say our angle that we're talking about changed to this other corner of the right triangle. That means that the opposite side will now be the base, this leg down here. And the adjacent side will now become this right side. The hypotenuse, however, stays exactly the same. It does not switch places. It's always the side opposite of the right angle, but the adjacent and opposite side depends on the angle we are talking about. So here, try to identify the adjacent side if we want to talk about angle Z in the triangle below. Select your response below. Okay, so we're talking about angle Z. We're talking about this angle measure right over here. So that means that the side opposite would be 12. The hypotenuse is always the longer side. So that means that my adjacent side would be the leg that measures 5.